Okay. YouTube, you always take forever. YouTube, please connect. Here we go. Okay. Oh, am I muted? Okay. Can you hear me? YouTube. Oops. No, mute that one. Okay. Okay. I think YouTube is working now. Here we go. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go live on Instagram. And I'm going to try and pay attention to chat. Oh, hello. Yay. Okay. Cool. Okay, so for you YouTube folks, I would have to start YouTube first because it's a little bit more complicated than Instagram. This is my maker bag. Yay. And I am going to do a live unboxing of the things that's in my maker bag. I take this everywhere, like literally everywhere. Anytime it requires making, I bring it with me. Okay, so I'm gonna go live on Instagram. Okay, ready? Boop. And now, oh wait, oh no, camera, this is the wrong way. Switch around. There we go. Okay, fun. Okay, hello everybody. We have Instagram up here and YouTube down here. Instagram definitely limits after an hour, so if I talk for more than an hour, we have a conversation for more than an hour, please feel free to check out on YouTube. But I will try and, oh, hello friends, yay! I'll try to pay attention to comments, so if you have any questions about things as I go, please interject. So, woo! This is my maker bag. I kind of jokingly refer to this as my maker clown bag because I fit so many things in here and it's really not that big. Boop. But this is my beloved bag that I bring to all of my workshops, all of my lessons, and pretty much anything that anywhere that I have to go where I might create something with electronics. Boom, this is my jam. It has been through many iterative processes, so I have carefully fine-tuned the contents of this box, and if you'll notice, there's a safety pin on the outside. That's intentional. I always have safety pins with me, which is a holdover from when I used to make my own clothes and I never knew if my clothes were going to fall apart. So, safety pins, woohoo, super useful, yay! Okay, so here we go. Let's start. Well, first, I actually should make a little quick caveat. So, this bag is for parts and materials for building things, but I typically assume, in quotes, that most folks have art and craft supplies. So in addition to the contents of this bag, I would also recommend, if you're looking to put together a makerspace or something like that, markers. Markers are super fun. These are my favorite markers. They're amazing. They only get brought out for special occasions. But also, because we're in the middle of a pandemic, I actually always carry around hand sanitizer when you're building things. Kids are great, but they're also kind of dirty. So I always make sure that I clean my hands before and after. If I have access to soap and water, that's always better. But if not, my mom got me this, and it smells like vanilla. It's a little strong. It also smells like alcohol. Okay. So, be sure to clean your hands, especially when you are working with kids, because they're adorable, but they kind of, yeah. I always have, like, pens and pencils and things like that. So this doesn't have any of that stuff. But, let's check this first front pocket. Boom! First aid kit. It's upside down. Yay! So this is a really handy first aid kit. It's super, super small. And I like it because it has the basics: alcohol wipes, alcohol prep pad, band-aids, sting relief pads, and it also has burn cream in here. Oh, cute, and little aspirin, that's adorable. I should put, maybe ibuprofen instead of aspirin for the little kiddos. I've only had to use Band-Aids out of here, and depending what caused the cut, I also use the antiseptic cream. Oh, someone says you saw some of the AI stuff and you want to see more. Cool, thank you. What's next? Okay, scissors. Scissors are super useful for all the things. So, sometimes I actually have multiple pairs of scissors, but just this one. Safety goggles, ba-ba-da, critical for all the things. You always, always, always need to wear eye protection whenever you are cutting, apart things that are not paper, I guess. Or soldering, or for a lot of the other handy-dandy stuff in here. Maybe not programming, that's probably fine. So this is a special addition to my bag just at the moment because a few of my students indicated that they were super interested in the color changing LEDs. And so I have a baggie of these, which I normally don't have in here. And I'm gonna try and find, well, I'll show you in a sec. I do have batteries in here. So we'll pull those out for now. So normally I don't necessarily keep these in here, but that's special. I also have these aren't scissors, but I use them for scissors sometimes. So these are wire cutters. Also super, super handy for cutting small pieces of metal, like paper clips. Sometimes I use them to cut wooden dowels and stuff like that. I probably should get a dowel cutter, because that would be a little bit better. But super handy, not just for wires, but also for other things. This probably isn't supposed to be there, but so it goes. I also have an Instructables patch. Tee! I love the Instructables logo. It's so adorable. I keep these in here sometimes as little, like, swag from Instructables contests that I win, so that I can give it to my students as motivation for completing projects, or as like a, yay, you finished a project! For example, one of my students well, I shouldn't say just, we built a mini robotic table, which is hilarious and adorable, and when she finished the table, I gave her a sticker, and then when she finished the tutorial write-up, which was very challenging, I also gave her a choice between a patch and a sticker, and she picked the sticker. So, little swag for my students. Ooh, measuring tape! Yeah! Woo! Party time! Measure all the things. I like this a lot because it's flexible, so you can measure the circumference of your head. Why not? It's useful for round objects and other things like that. It also has a level in it. Oh my gosh, and I realized, I'm like, this is probably from some event. It's from the Shoreline School District. Ha, cute. Electrical tape, because it's very useful. Yay! What else have I got in this front pocket? Okay, ignore that. This is just servo things. I threw those in there because I was like, I don't know where these go. Gorilla Glue. Super, super useful. But make sure that you get a kind that doesn't spill in your bag, because that's happened to me before, and that's not very fun. Ooh, more electrical tape. Boom! Multiple colors are super useful, especially if you are trying to glue together different wires. Not glue them together, but like wrap up wires, and they're different types. Trash. Some trash in there. When I don't have access to a garbage can, sometimes I just throw it in here. So that will be, this is actually a good excuse for me to throw away the garbage. Old wire, which again, I didn't have access to a garbage can, so I'm just going to throw that away. I always keep cables in here. I actually am missing a couple because I'm currently using them in projects. So, I have 2 micro USB cables. These are my favorite because they're flexible. Bloop, 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 bloop. But it's nice to have at least 2 micro USB cables. I always have a USB A to B cable, which is the Arduino cable. And then I also almost always have a mini USB cable, which is the size up from this one. I haven't carried around USB-C cable yet because aside from smartphones, I found that microcontrollers don't use them quite yet. Maybe one day we'll get there because we've all done the whole, is it plugged in the right way? Nope, you flip it and you're like, wait, it was right the first time. Game. USB-C doesn't have that. But for now, no USB-C in here. Cool, okay, so that is the front pocket. Bloop. So this is kind of, I have Do I have a rhyme or reason for what I keep in here? Yeah, sort of. I usually keep in the front pocket smaller things that are tool, like safety goggles, wire cables, measuring tape, that sort of thing. So that's what goes in the front pocket. Now we get to the materials part. Well, I also have some tools in here too. Boom! Okay, so this is where the clown bag aspect comes in, because I'm going to pull out all of the things. I'm going to have to scoot back for this. I'm going to pull out all of the things and be like, how did you fit all that in a tiny bag? Magic. Not magic, actually. Okay, so Talenti containers. Thank you, Ice Cream Company, for making the best containers ever. This container is full of what I call building materials, and because I'm putting them in quotes, it's really things like toothpicks, straws, rubber bands. There's some ribbon in here. I'll take this. I'll digest this in a sec. And then I also have another Talenti container, because they're delightful containers, of batteries and battery cases, and again, we'll go through that in a second. Tiny electronic components, yay! So we're gonna set this aside. We'll go through all of the parts and pieces in here. Yes, I have put these together by hand. Fun. Here is a bag full of wires and wire-related things, and by that I mean there is, or is supposed to be, a breadboard in here, but I'm using it at the moment. Whoopsies. I have a bunch of projects going on right now, so there are a few things missing from my maker bag because they're in use. But other wire-related things that are in here: alligator clips, header pins, maker tape, conductive tape, and this is actually where I keep my resistors. So one bag, and then this is my bag of alligator clips. Let's see. Oh, that's where, I recently taught an Arduino workshop, and so my Arduino is just hanging out. I normally take better care of my Arduino in my bag. But this is where my USB A to B cable goes. It normally goes in the front pocket. Ooh, this is my favorite thing. Fluke multimeter, yeah! It took me a long time to invest in one of these, but they're the best multimeters ever. This is kind of like your basic, I don't necessarily want to say beginner multimeter, but it's great for kids because there's not an overwhelming number of settings. And also, it's great for beginners to electronics in general. It's really easy to use. It has all the settings that you would need. One of my favorites with kiddos is to put it to the continuity setting, which is basically, does something conduct electricity or not? And then if you go boop boop, then what you can do with a younger kid or an adult, you can give this to them and say, hey, let's test different materials and see if they're conductive. So you give them random things. You're like, is the tape conductive? And they're like, oh, no. And then you're like, are the scissors conductive? Oh, look at that, it's conductive. So that's a really fun way to teach folks about conductive versus non-conductive. Yay! I love this multimeter. Special place in my heart. What else is in here? Ooh, this is my second favorite tool. Boom. Whoops. Flip it around. Boom. These are wire strippers, / they also can cut wire in this center piece right here. Boop boop. But these are also really great for kiddos because it will not cut the wire, it'll just pull off the plastic. So I'll do a little demo for you. Wait, hold on. Can I do a demo? This is going to be backwards. Okay. So I'll do it like that. Boop. And then, oh, so good. And then you just can pull off the plastic if it doesn't come off with these. These are super handy. They're my favorite. I once got stopped by TSA because of these, because I had a workshop in a different city that I was flying to. And they took them from me. They were like, these are a weapon. I was like, it's a tool. It's my favorite tool. So I actually paid to mail them back to myself because I love these. Okay, next, I have a container full of microcontrollers, which is normally where the Raspberry Pi goes. And then I also have, I actually have 2 microbits. So we'll go through more of this in detail once I get everything out. Extra batteries. Oh, look at that. I have a crayon in here. That's fine. That's supposed to be in there. Remnant of a workshop. Okay, and then the last thing that is in my maker bag is my iFixit kit. Woo! I love this, and the iFixit folks don't make this kit anymore, so I am holding on to this with all of my life. Okay, so, oh, Yes, for those of you that are just tuning in, I'm going through my portable maker bag and I'm pulling out all of the things and talking about why I have these things in my maker bag and what they're useful for. So I also just really want to quickly mention that all of these things, this has been an iterative process. So I have had a portable maker bag for about as long as I've been a maker, which is maybe like 6 or 7 years now. And the reason why is because ever since I started becoming a maker, I have really one of the biggest reasons why I started my company was because I wanted to teach people how to use technology as a tool. And so what that means is that I travel around a lot. I go to a lot of different places, schools, libraries, businesses, houses, friends' houses sometimes for parties. That person, yes. So it's really nice to have kind of an assortment of things in one bag because I also forget things all the time. So this has been a process of me trying to predict myself that I'm going to forget something, so I put it all in one place. And then that way it allows me to show up, and if, for example, my workshop I run out of something, I recently taught a drop-in workshop where I used coin cell batteries and little LED lights, and I brought 100 of these, and we ran out in the first hour, and I was there for 2 hours. So I did end up running out of batteries in my bag, but at least I had a few extras. So, yes, okay. Let's see, what should we do first? I guess we'll start with the easy stuff first. So why do I have a multimeter? Because they're so useful in electronics. If you are trying to get started in electronics, this is the first tool I would recommend getting. You don't necessarily have to invest in a fluke. I think this was maybe $50. It's worth it for sure. And if you're working with high voltage or high current, 1,000% get a fluke multimeter because these are the only ones, as far as I know of, that have the proper circuit protection in here that will cause the fuse to blow inside of the multimeter rather than outside, which is a good thing. So these are the safest multimeters you can get. If you're not working with high voltage, you can get away with a cheaper multimeter, maybe 20 to 30 bucks. I have a really rad multimeter that I bought from Radio Shack. Rest in peace, Radio Shack. I miss thee. But that served me really well for the first few years I was a maker until I made enough money that I was able to invest in better quality tools. But that said, I still have the Radio Shack, and it is in my workshop tools bin. This one stays in my bag because I do not want to let it out of my sight. Multimeter. Yay, multimeter. Should you get wire strippers? Yes. These are not terribly expensive. I can't remember exactly how much. I want to say like 22 bucks. So I love these. I used this kind of wire cutter as a wire stripper for a long time and realized that it's really time consuming to use these because like half the time you accidentally clip the wire off and then you're like, oh my gosh. And also kids have a really hard time with this, / beginners also have a really hard time with this. But that said, these are really handy for cutting wires, and since I have trash wire in here, I'll show you. Boop! It has dog hair on it. That's not surprising. But these also can cut wires too. I love these. So if you were to if you were to purchase tools in order, I would say get a multimeter first and then get wire strippers. Why are wire strippers second? Well, because if you're working with a limited budget, technically you can use scissors to strip wire off. You just have to be careful. Usually what I like to do is gently kind of cut the wire around, like rotate it and gently cut, and then you can use your fingers to pry off the wire coating, not the wire. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah. So you can use scissors as a way to pull off the insulation on wires. What other tools do I have in the bag? This is super duper helpful, which is just a driver set with a bunch of different tips. This is designed specifically for electronics. Like I mentioned, the iFixit folks don't make this particular kit anymore, which makes me really sad because this is my favorite one. I did end up buying one of their more recent ones, which is a driver set that's designed for taking apart smartphones, I believe. And it's almost as good as this one. It has a few different things specifically to help you kind of pry off a glass screen. And so that's really useful if you want to do that type of electronic work. But what I like about this one, well, number one, the tips are magnetic, which is amazing, especially if you're working with teeny tiny screws. And then the other thing is that taking things apart is a wonderful way to learn about electronics. Also, destroying things is super fun. So I love doing that with folks of all ages as an introduction to electronics, because if something's already broken, or if you have permission to break it because it's going to get thrown away anyway, especially for adults, we have a really hard time not knowing things or destroying things because we've been taught, maybe for good reason, to take care of our electronics, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes we need to let out our rage and destroy something in a controlled environment with the right tools. So the other thing too is once you've taken apart a few electronics, you start to see patterns. And so when you look at a circuit board, you'll start to notice, oh, wait a second, these little cylindrical things I've seen before. Or, oh, here is a black chip. I wonder what that does. Or here's a heat sink on top of the black chip. I wonder what that does. And you start to ask questions and kind of see how these little electronic cities work to make lots of different things. Driver set, super handy. So that would be tool number 3 that I would invest in if you don't already have one. Let's see. Most folks have scissors, so that's a good thing. Oh, well, I guess I should say tool number 1 would be safety goggles if you don't have those. Tool number 0, safety goggles. Cool. Let's see. So next, what should we do next? Let's do the non-electronic stuff. So I have a container full of just kind of building materials, more or less. These are my small building materials. Usually when I travel, I also carry around cardboard because I love cardboard. It's a great prototyping tool. But that said, there are lots and lots of things that you can find around the house, around the workspace, that you can use to build things. So this is kind of a supplement to the upcycling techniques that I've learned. Things that you can pull out of the trash. Cardboard, plastic containers, so perfect example, or like berry containers, both the berry baskets, those green ones, those are super, super useful building tools, building materials, and also the kind of plastic containers that tomatoes come in. I keep those sometimes when I have reason to, like when my students are building something, I usually keep those. Plastic water bottles and things like that can be really great, especially things with lids, because if you want to do waterproof projects, you can use water bottles and other containers with lids. So in addition to kind of like the upcycled materials, these are things that I save or gather. Ribbon, because it's pretty and useful. You can use it to tie things together. Skewers that are cut up. These are my tiny skewers. Oh my gosh, yeah. So I joke that I'm a controlled hoarder because there are so many things that have so much use in this world that we just toss away. I say controlled. I give myself one drawer at home in my art cabinet to store, like, trash, quote unquote. Not anything dirty, nothing with food on it, but like old soap dispensers or things like that. Or this is a really good example. Twist ties. Twist ties are super useful, both for cord holders and also to, I don't know, just hold things together. And then you can also make little people out of them, which I do sometimes. Yeah, so you can use them for sculptures or something, or like, here's a ghost. Okay. Good times. What else do I have in here? Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even forgot I had this in here. Yarn. Not yarn. Sewing thread, but close enough. Rubber bands, also super useful. Straws. Okay. One of the things I really enjoy kind of getting kids to discover with straws is you can make a pretty cute lightsaber with a straw. So it's pretty straightforward too. So these are my little color changing LEDs. And then you go boop. Oh, look at that. Nah, it diffuses the light pretty nicely. So it's also a really interesting experimentation with color. If you have different color straws, you can see how the different colors of straw interact with the different colors of light. And you can talk about color mixing, color theory, that sort of thing. Boop. Cool. Okay. So, what else is in here? I have some tiny screws. Oh, yeah! Okay. I also have toothpicks in here, and I always poke myself. Pulleys. And these are super cool, because there's bearings in them. This is where the extra servo heads are supposed to go. Okay. Cool. Okay, so that's pretty much it for these tiny building materials. So I'm gonna put those in here. Oh, hi, Marley. Okay. So put that to the side. Well, I guess maybe I can try and keep it in the screen. I'm gonna quickly run out of room though. Okay, so let's look at some of the power supply options that I have. Well, this is one option, and I almost always have my laptop on me, so we just plug a microcontroller into the laptop. But if you want to make something battery powered, or if you don't want to use a microcontroller, which I get, a lot of my students definitely prefer working with physical components, and they can get kind of bored with coding until they kind of see the point of what coding allows them to do with hardware. So I like to keep a lot of small battery cases, like a single AA battery case, as well as, whoa, there it goes, as well as some 9-volt battery cases, so we can do a few more interesting things. I also really like to have a 9-volt barrel jack power supply for the Arduino board. So that way, if one of your students or yourself or one of your friends, whoever you're hanging out with and making stuff with, if you want to make a portable project, for example, I did this with a wearable project one time, although I actually stacked 2 9-volts together. Good times. You can power the Arduino with a 9-volt battery. So in addition to the battery cases in here, I also have batteries. Useful. Oh, I have a small battery pack, probably from the Microbit. So this is a 2x AAA battery, and then I have a 2x AA. I like this one too because one time I kept a battery case like this that didn't have a switch on it, and it had 2 batteries in it, and it kind of melted the wires together in my bag. Oopsies, it was actually that big too. So narrowly avoided setting fire to my bag. Whoops. So now I only have battery cases where I might have 2 batteries where I can flip the switch. So if I unflip the switch like that, then it turns the case off. So in addition to some extra AAA batteries, I also have a lot of coin cells. These are coin cell batteries, or button batteries, whichever you prefer. Those are super popular because they're a really great way to test out LEDs and to get kids started with electronics without being too overwhelming. So all of this fits into this little Talenti container, and I grab the battery case that I dropped in my enthusiasm. Boop. Okay, so we unboxed the Talenti containers, and now I'm reboxing them. I guess I'll put my coin cell in here too. One caveat about putting loose coin cells in things is that if the coin cells stack top to bottom, they can discharge quickly, so they just die. There's nothing necessarily bad that happens to them, but like it's not unlike AA batteries that have enough energy to potentially set something on fire in your bag. Oopsies. These don't really, unless you have a bunch of them, but it is annoying when you go to check to get a battery and they're all dead. You're like, no, I have to buy more. And someone asked, are these CR2032? Yes, they are. They're my favorite for electronics. Heck yeah. Okay, so, boom. Power supply. Actually, I'm going to move this aside. So So, well, I guess I should say, why do I have these? Well, because when you have a circuit, you need something to supply energy. Energy's not free. It's got to come from somewhere. We are fortunate enough to have very large electrical energy generators that pump electricity to our houses, and so we can plug stuff in and not really worry about it, but we do have to pay for it. So having a battery power source is super useful because you need energy to make things happen. Cool. Okay, so microbit. Woo! Microbit is a very, very fun microcontroller. It's a beginner-friendly microcontroller. And the reason why it's beginner-friendly is because well, two reasons, really. One, you can program it in block-based coding, which means you drag and drop, very similar to Scratch. And the second reason that it's beginner-friendly is because you don't have to build circuits to make things with it. So, boom. I don't know if this is the back or the front, but that is the one that has the title labeled. Red LED matrix, there's 25 of these, 2 input push buttons, and then these 1, 2, and 3, or in computer coding, 0, 1, and 2. These are input-output rings, so you can clip alligator clips to these, and that's really nice because some of the younger kiddos have a hard time with the breadboard. And then there's a 3-volt output, technically 3.3 volts if you're counting, and then a ground. These are really popular to get folks started learning how to either code or build circuits. There's also an accelerometer on board, so you shake it and you can do things with those results. That's how I made my magic wand gesture controller. So, oh, my dog is excited. So I can do the Wingardium Leviosa gesture, and I figured that out by looking at the output of the accelerometer on this. It took a hot second. I was like, wait, how do I do this? Cool. What else is on here? You have a compass on here, and then my favorite thing, and the reason why I have 2 microbits, is because it also has radio. Technically Bluetooth, and the reason why I say technically is really just like the wavelength that it uses to communicate in Bluetooth, and if you're like, what is that? Please feel free to ask me more about wavelengths of radio. Microbit is really fun for lots of different folks. 1, for beginners, and 2, for folks that are a little bit nervous about coding. It's a really good way to show them that, yes, anyone can learn how to code. It's really just learning another language. Boop! So that's the stuff I have for the microbit. I'm going to break into the other microcontroller container because this is a little accessory for the microbit that I would recommend. Not necessarily this specific one, but this is a breakout board for the microbit. I'll show you how it works really quickly. So you might be asking, there's only 3 input and output rings. What happens if I want to add 4 motors? Well, too bad. No, just kidding. You just get one of these, and then you plug it in like this. Usually it faces out so that when you plug it into the board, you can see the LEDs. And then this way, you have access to a lot more input and output pins, so you can control many more motors or lights or speakers or whatever you might want to control. Cool! So I would recommend getting the breakout board if you do want to work with the microbit. Grab a breakout board from SparkFun that is breadboard compatible, so you can plug it right into a breadboard. That makes it way easier. Cool. Okay, so my other favorite beginner microcontroller, which I keep in my little box of microcontrollers, is the Circuit Playground Express, made by Adafruit, or Adafruit, whatever you prefer. So, it's adorable. It's a little circle. So cute. So this one also has little input and output rings that you can use with alligator pins. And like the microbit, these are also touch sensitive. So this one also has 2 input pins. It also has a little slide switch, which I think is adorable. And then there's lights around the Circuit Playground Express that can be different colors. They're called neopixels. Very cute, very cute. What else is on here? This also has an accelerometer. It has an infrared transmitter and receiver, which is how your TV remote control works. So you can also send and receive messages remotely. If you have 2 of these, you just do it instead of with radio, you do it with infrared, which is super cool. It also has a buzzer on board, so you can play little songs. It's very faint, but it's there, and that's super fun. Cool. So Circuit Playground Express is also programmed with a block-based coding language, so it's a really nice alternative to the microbit, especially if you have students that are really into colors and aesthetics, and a lot of my students are. It's a very fun and flashy board. Cool. So I also have a Photon microcontroller in here because I love the Photon. It's wireless and you can program it with your smartphone. So if you want to teach someone electronics and they don't have a laptop, or maybe you just don't have a laptop for everybody, you can use this because these days most folks have a smartphone. They just download the app, which is free. The boards cost money. And then you can program the board from the app. Yay! You can also program it from their I think it's a web IDE, or integrated development environment, and it's very, very similar to Arduino. I think it uses the same language wiring. It might be slightly different, but it's pretty much the same thing. Cool. What else do I have in here? I have an Arduino Nano. It's so cute. It's very little. So that is in addition to my, where did I put it? Oh, here we go. So I have two Arduino boards, Arduino Uno, which is great for beginners because it's really hard to break. So this is Arduino number 1. Arduino number 2, which is the Nano. It's a little bit less robust than the Uno. You can try to break this and good luck because it has a lot of protection circuitry on board. Yay! This one, not so sure about that, but it's really nice because it's great for wearable projects. It's so little. Yay! So 2 Arduino boards, which is what is in this container's for. And then this is also where I keep extra felt, apparently. On this side, I have 2 IC chips. I want to say it's a 555 timer. Let's see if I can read this. Oh my gosh, my eyes are not that good. I think it's a 555. And then I have an H-bridge, which is often used to control motors or other high current applications. I have robot eyes, also known as an ultrasonic sensor. So one of these sends out an ultrasonic sound wave, and then the other one receives it, and so it works just like echolocation. Cool! I have a regular old DC motor in here, as well as a servo motor. Yay, funsies! And so this is where my servo arms live in addition to this bag with extra ones. Cool. Okay, so that I will put back later. I'm just gonna scoot that off to the side. Cool. All right, so let's dig in to this box of tiny components. Tiny components. Okay, so I handpicked all of the things that go in here, and every so often I'm like, I should add other things, but this is a really great starting point. Just enough stuff to make lots of different things with, but not so much that it's super overwhelming. Because I've noticed, especially for folks that are just getting started, if you present them with too many options, it's like, it's too much. So by starting with things that, a fewer selection of things, you can give them the freedom to explore without putting too much anxiety on them. So I have 3 bins of different colored LEDs because lights are always super fun. I have some little buzzers, one of which I just dropped. No! I think this one's cute because it has little header pins attached to it. And then I need to put more of these because these keep breaking, but I have a little buzzer motor in here. These are the same motors that are in your smartphones that make your smartphone that make your smartphone go. So this is like a I guess I put the coin cell away. Never mind. But yeah, these are really fun for kids because they're like, "What is this?" And you're like, give them a coin cell battery, and then they figure out how to connect it, just like with the light. And they're like, "Oh, whoa, what is that?" You're like, "Yes, this is the same parts and pieces that engineers use to build electronics with. Yay!" That's really powerful, by the way, when you tell folks that they're working with the same things that engineers use, because they are. Yay. Another thing that I love that is really hard to get out is this passive infrared sensor, aka security lights, or security sensor. Yeah. So sometimes I take this little dome off. Oh, one of the legs broke, so sad. That's okay. But inside you have your infrared sensor that detects motion. Yay. And so that's what all of these other little parts are doing on the printed circuit board. They are converting the signal from the infrared sensor to a readable sensor for a microcontroller. I also have light sensors, visible light sensors, as well as, I think these are all visible light sensors, aka a photoresistor. That's a really fun way to make a dark detecting circuit. My LEDs are kind of infiltrating all the other containers. I have some tilt sensors, which are super fun. They're really, I love giving these to students and then being like, figure out what it is. What does it do? What do you shake it? Like shaking a present. What do you hear? What do you notice about it? I have 2 containers of capacitors of different values, which is a really fun way to talk about camera flashes and what makes camera flashes happen, aka capacitors. Yay! I also have some potentiometers or variable resistors. This one's broken, that happens, that's fine. And then I have the larger ones, which are super fun because you're like, hey, take apart a stereo and look underneath and, oh, what do you find? Oh, it's one of these. And these are the same ones you can put knobs on for your larger stereo systems. So that's super fun. I also think, are these different? These might both be 10K. Yeah, these are both 10K. It's nice to have a few different options of sizes of potentiometers, so that way you can say, hey, check out this one, how does it dim the light? Then give them a different one and say, hey, how does this change? Okay, so those are the first 2 rows, and the back row I have transistors. It's probably an assortment at this point, but I think most of them are NPN, and if you're like, what is that? Don't worry about it. But basically, transistors are a really fun way to explore making more complex circuits, since a transistor is basically an electrical, or, well, it's kind of an electric switch. Just how, like, this is a switch, but I have to use the energy from my hand. A transistor is a switch, but you can use the energy from an electrical signal. This is a IR LED? UV LED. It's one of those. I think it's UV because of the color. Can't remember, would have to test that. But it's one of the ranges of light that we can't see with our eyeballs. Then I also have diodes. Diodes are super useful, especially if you want to work with solar panels. I have little loops of wire to explore. Well, one, these are really useful for teaching students about motors, and also for showing the electromagnetic effect. So a moving electric field generates a magnetic field, and a moving magnetic field generates an electric field. And so when you have a loop of wire, you end up with the current flows in a circle, and via the right-hand rule / the current looping rule, you end up with a magnetic field that points through the circle. So you can use this to create a temporary magnet, which is super fun. And then I also have one of these, which is kind of like an inductor, basically. And then I have one container full of switches, like toggle switches. So basically, these stay put when you switch them. And then I have the last container is momentary switches, where they're just little push buttons. So bloop, bloop, bloop. So you push it down and it pops back up. And then I have one large momentary switch because it's really cute. It's also really satisfying. Cool. So yeah, that is my container of tiny parts and pieces. Cool. Okay. What else do we have left? Oh, we only have 2 things left. Let's see. So the alligator clips. I'm going to say one thing about that. So I kind of have like your standard alligator clip, alligator to alligator, but then I also have a little bag full of, I love these so much. These are called pin-ended alligator clips. Boop. So an alligator clip to a pin. Yay! These are super duper useful for working with the microbit and the Circuit Playground Express because you can clip this to the microcontroller like so. So I go boop, I clip that here, and then I can connect the pin end into there. Yay! It's really satisfying. Cool. So, yay for pin-ended alligator clips. Yay, thank you, Adafruit. So I like to have at least 6 of those, usually to control 2 motors. Theoretically, you could just use an alligator clip and a jumper cable. That's fine too. But these are small and very easy. Cool. Thank you. Let me know if you all have any questions about any of the reasons why I've included any of this stuff. Alligator clips are super useful for working with the beginner microcontrollers, and also if you're like me and lazily want to set up circuits. Yeah, good times. The one thing about alligator clips is that can be a source of bad electrical connection. So if you make something with a small or with a sensor with a small signal, I would not necessarily recommend alligator clips because you can have a lot of loss in the cable, but useful for beginner stuff. Cool. Okay, so the last container that I want to go through is my wire container, and I have, this is on my to-do list at some point. These resistors are not sorted, and every time I take them out, I cringe, because I'm just like, oh my god. There are some resistor bands that I have memorized. I know the 1K, 10K, 4.7K, mostly because it's yellow and purple, and that's like a very unique color combination. But aside from that, it's usually a guessing game. Let's pull out a resistor and try it, which can be a fun game in itself, but sometimes you're just like, I don't want the 1 mega ohm resistor, I just want a regular resistor. So one of these days I will organize this, and it won't be a jumbled mess of random resistors in a bag one day. But for now, bag of resistors, super critical. Okay. The other thing I have, well, I have a bunch of things in my wire bag. So, boom. Male to female jumper wires, which I usually pull apart. These came in kind of like a specialty Arduino kit, but I thought they're super useful because they are female to female jumper wires, which you need every once in a while. And then I also have a lot of your standard male, oh wait, I was like, your standard male to male jumper wires. That's not one. This is one. There we go. So I like to have all 3 sets, M to M, M to F, and F to F, because you never know what you want. I'm going to pull this out at the same time I pull this out, because, okay, so, copper tape. Woo! This is the kind where, the adhesive is conductive, but to be honest, I kind of want to throw all of my copper tape away because, this stuff is so much better. It's not even funny. I love this stuff so much. One of the folks I worked with discovered it, so I did not discover it on my own, but they found it under the label Maker Tape, but Adafruit sells it. And they sell it as conductive nylon. Okay, that's fine. But it's sticky on one side, so it's the same basic principle as conductive tape. It works really, really good for making flat circuits or 2D circuits. You can also attach it to clothes, which is super fun. So when I bring it to workshops, sometimes I'm like, build circuits on your clothes. Why not? Life is more fun when we have lights all over the place. And then the other thing is that it works way better than copper tape. And one of my students is building a town for her robot, and so we're gonna lay wiring down for her streetlights, which is adorable, and we're gonna use this to do that. So there's lots and lots of uses for this stuff. I love it a lot. I keep the copper tape in the bag because I don't know, part of me thinks maybe I'll use it eventually, or slash it's probably just like a backup for this stuff in case I run out of it. But I would really recommend getting this, especially if you like to make art stuff or if you like to add a little flair to your life. It's really fun. Okay, so let's see, what else? Let's do the breadboards next. So I have a standard half-size breadboard. This is my ancient breadboard. You can tell it's so old because it's yellowed, and actually you can literally see the outline of a microcontroller that used to be on it for a very long time. When I first started my company, I was trying to do a commercial product. My graduate research project was a soil moisture sensor that can control an irrigation system. And I still love that project. It's also still one of my most popular projects, probably because it solves a very common problem. But for the first year that I was running my business, I was like, I'm gonna make this a thing and I'm gonna bring it to market. And so I was doing a lot of prototyping, trying to make the different parts wireless. So when I designed it for my graduate research project, the whole thing was controlled by a single Raspberry Pi, which meant the soil moisture sensor and the irrigation valve, which attaches to a hose spigot, were on the same control system. So I wanted to make the soil moisture sensor wireless so that the Pi could kind of go wherever. And I literally was using this very breadboard to prototype that. So this is like a 6-year-old breadboard. And it has the outline of the Arduino Nano that I was trying to build it with. Anyway, that's cute. That's in my maker bag. Half-size breadboard, and I love these. They're tiny breadboards. Oh, they're so cute. Boop boop, little breadboard. There's only really 3 rows, and then there's like power rails on the outside, which I think is super cute. So these are also really nice for smaller beginner-friendly projects as a good way to teach folks about how a breadboard works without being like, look, here's thousands of holes to get overwhelmed with. This is a lot easier. Also, they come in really adorable colors. So these are called mini solderless breadboards. And then kind of like your standard jumbled mess of wires, male pin-ended wires. And then I'm just going to dump the rest of this ish out. You might have heard the little clink of coins. So I also like to keep random conductive materials. One, I showed you earlier to use the multimeter to teach folks about things that conduct and things that don't conduct electricity. So that's a fun game to play with coins. And then also, well, I guess I should be transparent. Sometimes I don't. These are coins from different countries, and I never know what to do with them. I'm like, do I recycle them? I'm just gonna put them in my conductive bag. Okay. My students will figure out what to do with them. That's fine. So I have 2 coins. LOL. I also have 2 loose alligator clips. You never know. I have used them for things occasionally. I have straight header pins, and I also have right angle header pins. These are super useful, especially if you're trying to do soldering projects, or actually they're also really useful for things like servo motors. And then, last but not least, oh yes, I also have kind of standard wire, so I like this because it's red and black. Those are the most common colors that you'll need. And then I have some, oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on what these are called. I have some JST connectors, which are really popular for quadcopters / drones. So I have a couple of those. And then I also have, oh my gosh, I totally forgot what these are called, but these are really rad connectors. So there's a clip here, you undo them, and they have 3 wires. So the JST connectors that I have only have 2, which is nice, but a lot of times if you're working with sensors, you're going to need more than 2 wires, and so that's why I really like these, because, again, really good for servo motors, or kind of your standard sensors. Not quite enough for something like the ultrasonic sensor, but sometimes what I've done is if you have a lot of parts and pieces connected to the same microcontroller, you have a separate wire for the ground connections, and then you use this for, like, these connectors for the signal connections. Also very useful for wearable projects because I've learned the hard way that you have to give yourself a way out of the wearable as well. Yep, good times. So, connectors are really helpful for that because if you want to make the lights look a certain way, it can be really helpful to build them while you're wearing them, but then you also have to be able to take them off so you can get out of it. Recommended. Cool. I think that's it. Wow, look at that. We got through the maker bag pretty quick. All right. So that's all of the stuff that's in my maker bag. So if you are looking to put together a maker space for your school, your home, your work, or your garage, wherever you want to build a little mini maker space, this is a really good set of tools and materials to start with. So please let me know if you have any questions about anything that we covered in the maker bag. If you want to figure out where I bought all of these things, please just send me a message or leave a comment and I'm happy to provide you with links. I'm not trying to sell you any of these things. I just want this genuinely to be helpful. I have learned over the many, many years of teaching lots of different folks, lots of different types of projects, lots of different skill ranges, and I've honed in on this specific set of materials as a really, really nice, enough materials to allow for a lot of possibilities, but not so much that it's overwhelming or super expensive or too much to fit in a little portable bag. Cool. Okay. There we go. So, yay. Thank you all for watching. I hope this was super helpful. Please, like I said, let me know if you have any questions. And happy making, my friends. Also, stay safe. Wash your hands. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth. Okay. Cool. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Bye. Okay, we're gonna end on Instagram first. Boop. All right.